Thanks for coming in into Cedar FinTech Lab's knowledge webinar. We are discussing today a very, very interesting topic on the digital, which is around open banking and APIs.
Chetan, for the kind introduction. Well, let me set the context again. Since we were talking more on the open banking and PSD2, let me also give a perspective, because in the interest of all the audience who's listening, is what is the purpose of the entire initiative was basically, first of all, to boost the market innovation in terms of product offering, even in the last few years, since it's started, as we've already seen some of the case studies we've heard right now. The innovation which is happening in terms of the customer delight, what customer is getting is innovative products. It is boosting competition, enhancing payment security, and allowing to manage the funds effectively and in a better way. So that sets the context for the open banking and PSD2. Now, apparently, Profile Software Group, we have been at the forefront of what is happening, especially in this space. Being a European vendor, we've been servicing this industry for 3 decades now. And just to give you some background, we have been servicing the entire fintech space, the banking space, with this kind of offering. We've got quite a few case studies. In the interest of time, being the second participant, and I'm sure some of the other participants are also waiting to talk about themselves. What I say to all of you is, it is expanding open boundaries, expanding newer horizons, and what is the going forward plan. But before that, I would also like to set the context how dynamic the entire industry has been so far. If you see, in the last 3 years itself, various analysts have been talking, next slide please, have been talking various things. If you see, in 2017, we were talking about the entire digitalization, although we were talking about open banking and PSD2, but most of the banks, and then the crisis now forced much more faster adoption after the COVID-19. We are seeing euphoria of opportunities coming our way. We are seeing a lot of leads coming for this entire need of the open banking and the PSD2 framework requirements across various countries. As a vendor, we've been servicing more than 40 countries today, and with 7 international offices, we are in the forefront of innovation in terms of the banking technologies and the investment and wealth management technologies. Next slide, please. If you see, I'm just talking about most of the analysts in 2018 were talking about loyalty after 2017 and how technology can support the loyalty, as you can see in this slide. And then the perception back then was how technology can enable support just around the customer loyalty. Again, these are research materials we've been seeing and reading. And it is not about the research firm, it is about how dynamic the entire industry has been over the last few years. Next slide, please. Again, I'm being quicker so that everybody gets time. Most of the analysts back then in 2018 were talking about loyalty, as I mentioned to you earlier. Now, suddenly in 2019, loyalty stops not to be the main driver and issue. Loyalty exists only in terms of the business model of the bank and not around the technology being an enabler. And this was 2019. Next slide, please. 2020, here we are. Customers are not looking to be loyal. They are looking to be having a simple, convenient bank to cover all complex and dynamic needs of theirs. And hence PSD2 and open banking is the future. Customer wants easy to use operations. Forget about bank. I'll give you an example of course, it's not good to name. Let's say I have a Revolut account. Okay. Now, as a fintech firm, I can do everything from that account. I can go to Paris, shop in Paris, pay from my UK account, and get service from Revolut account across all the banks. This is what it brings to the table as a customer. I don't need to go to all banks. I, with my Revolut account, can do everything on the go. While I'm in the lockdown, sitting in Paris, I can still operate, So that is the beauty of what this is all bringing to for all of us. Next slide, please. We've already spoken why just this is not being a part of just banking. It is extending to a lot more areas, and we've already spoken about that. You need to obviously think from a perspective. Currently, everybody's on a lockdown, and you won't believe right now I'm sitting out of my Dubai office, and if I need to operate my UK bank account, I can do that because of the ease of operations I have with the open banking framework in existence, which was not the case earlier. Next slide, please. So all banking transactions to be seen from a single easy to use environment, and this is the need of the hour. Customers are not loyal. Customers want easy to use operations, and this is what we are talking about is the future for the next decade or so. So as I mentioned to you, it is not only extended to just bank account. It talks about extending to forex transactions. It talks about custodians, investment management, so on. I mean, wide array of offerings could be extended with this entire open framework, which is for us. At the end of the day, the customer is benefiting most with the easy to use operations, cost-effective way of operating across all banks, and yes, yet being very, very efficient. Next slide, please. Okay, I'll pause here. Of course, I have to eat my bread and butter. Profile, this gives you a perspective of our offering. We had designed and kept this futuristic requirement much in advance, being servicing financial systems for much longer. We realized there is a need of a completely flexible system. Today, as we speak, we have many case studies of a lendtech firm using the core banking application for lending, extending to, let's say, lending, peer-to-peer lending, alternative finance, leasing and asset finance, personal banking. As I mentioned to you, Islamic finance. Of course, we are ready with Islamic finance. Today, we can service. Today, if open banking is prominent in the GCC market, we are pretty ready with the Islamic banking coverage of ours. Collection, private banking, marketplace lending, payments. All this extending to the treasury aspect of the business is what we can offer from our solution today. So again, I would also like to highlight European core banking provider with 3 decades of experience. All this comes handy with us as a vendor. With the open API secure protocols, we were talking about the tokenization. It's very important. But communication with multiple systems is indeed a very, very sweet spot for the end customer benefiting from the entire scheme of things. Again, there are RTS rules. I will not deep dive into the rules part of it. It's very open and public information. But the next slide will give you a perspective of some of the case studies which I would like to throw some light on. I already mentioned about a digital lending operations, a company called Fiducian in the UK, where we are, which is involved in bridge loans and all kinds of lending activities. So we've been servicing them with our banking solution. It allows you to reduce the entire loan origination cost by almost 70%. And why I wanted to give a number and percentage to it, it is actually being efficient for the end customer, and not only from the end customer, the core user of the application is also benefiting from these kind of technologies. And this is very important. So it is linking borrowers to investors, converting loans into tradable securities. The investment management component comes into play, and there we also have a sweet spot. The comprehensive investor portal for the end customer to benefit. It also has a very strong, powerful rules engine, which can accommodate various workflows, and it's highly flexible, configurable by the end user in the application itself. Another case is a
question here.
Yeah.
So on all these organizations, was there a traditional technology already in place to which you integrated to make them open,
Yes.
or it
Uh,
was your solution only?
to be honest with you, they were scouting for various vendors. Most of this entire thing is new. Okay, so they were reaching out to many vendors since we were already in the forefront of what we could offer as a solution in terms of the comprehensive coverage, and we've always been near to the regulator of the changes which is happening, and that benefit we got being a European vendor from the beginning itself of being ready with the open banking and also having a comprehensive coverage. In fact, just before PSD2 and open banking, we were all over the place of selling alternative finance like P2P lending, crowdfunding solution extension from our core banking application. And of course, we have many references of those kind as well. So it was an independent evaluation. Like many of the challenger banks, one of the things you also highlighted, Chetan, is whether they were having a system. Most of the challenger banks are newer. They are worried about the cost aspect of the technology, which is very important to them. We want to democratize the entire business. We've been at a sweet spot. We are not a cheap vendor, nor are we expensive. We understand the requirements of these startup initiatives, try to be as flexible as possible, trying to meet their business plans objective at the end of the day. So I hope I'm able to answer
Yeah,
Chetan.
I think that's very good. I think thanks, Akash, for your very interesting perspective.